Hey everybody, what's up? Happy December 11th. We're like 2 weeks away to Christmas. So, Joe, what are you getting me?
Damn.
I still need to do shopping. Like, I think that's what I'm going to do after this is like finish some pitches and then go on Amazon and start shopping. I gotta figure that out. I don't know what I'm going to get you. Maybe more Red Bull. How about that?
More Red Bull. There's not enough. I'm always out, no matter what. The more I have, the less I feel like I actually have. So, yeah. So, episode 11, for those, we actually lost episode 10. That's why you didn't see it on YouTube. Lost it.
Oh,
I'm
no.
trying to download the VOD from Twitch, and it's just giving me the hardest time. So, episode 10 might be live eventually, someday. We're doing our best.
That's why you got to just tune in live, you know?
Tuning
you
in
just gotta
live is
show
the best
up.
anyway. Our pre-shows
Exactly.
We talk
you
about
can
the best
interact with us in chat. You can sway opinions. Like, if you're not here live, you're missing out.
It's true. We do stream this live every time we do the show, which is on inconsistent days. So, yeah, come see us live.
Whenever we feel like it.
But we're shooting for Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And I think we're going to hit that next week. No, we're not. We have to move it to Tuesdays. I have meetings now on Monday mornings. So we're going to be doing this on Tuesdays going forward. This is a good time to talk about that. Tune in twitch.tv/KickedTripod. And it will be a good old time. A good old time. This is a special episode, Yiska. We're going to start our rankings. We're going to start our Season 2 preseason rankings. We're going to start at number 20. Say what team we each individually vote for the worst, and then we're going to berate each other. And
be very happy, Joe, that I don't own a crown. Otherwise, I would have had some prop comedy to do here. Lord.
No.
We should come up with some sort of point system so that at the end of Season 2 we can go back and look at these and like see who's the closest.
Our arbitrary awards.
Yeah. Here's the thing is, even though I am clearly the dumbest of us three when it comes to like Overwatch analysis, I do really good in rankings for some reason. I know the ones that can like go wrong that everyone else kind of bets on. I find those dark horses like Boston. I think I got the best ranking overall for the High Noon podcast one that we did from last year because I put Boston at 6 and everyone else had them at like 12, 11.
Did you really?
10.
That's crazy.
Well, you're still wrong.
I mean, he was the closest out of everybody because you remember everybody.
No, I don't care if they landed on 6. That is still a wrong opinion.
I mean, and it is, right? So, like, that's the thing. And this is something that I've talked about a lot. Like, being good at ranking someone correctly and ranking someone accurately are two different things. And I was like, honestly, me putting Boston at 6 with the information we had then was just foolish. It was a gambler's placement.
It all worked out.
I cared more about getting it right than having the right opinion on a team. And that's what I'm going to bring to this one. I care less about having the right opinion on the team.
You just want to get it.
I just want to get it right.
Interesting. All right, so this might be 3 ways of all kinds of weirdness.
So why is NYXL the last team for you?
What?
Never mind.
I was gonna say, you think NYXL is gonna be the last? Oh man, this is gonna be dangerous, boys. Thanks for hanging out. Paris or Boston at 20? No.
Close, but not
close. But no.
Close.
I
Okay.
mean, both bottom half for me.
Yeah.
I think.
I unfortunately I can't in good faith rank them and power because that's what we're doing, right? We're ranking power. We're not ranking performance at the end of the season because we can't predict that, right? What you can rank is on paper rating, right?
Yeah.
And I did kind of try to temper
this. Okay.
Well, I mean, okay, so let me preface it like this. Like that's how I did mine. I did mine on power.
See,
what I think a team looks like on paper with a lower evaluation on intangibles that I think the team go into it. Yes, I will argue intangibles for some teams because I think that they're very, very important. But for most teams, I've tried to keep that out of the way.
I mean, for me, it's pretty much the same, with the only exception that I try to estimate willingness to drastically improve and actually, for instance, just eject a team or a core if it doesn't go good in the midseason.
See, you say that,
That's
and then you
imagine.
keep teasing me that Chengdu's going to be last. And I'm like, dog, what are you talking about?
No, they
What are you
just
talking
demonstrated absolute incompetence already. So
You don't even
Hold
you couldn't
on.
even
All
name
right.
me some of these players, dude. What are
All
you
right.
talking about?
keep
You're-
going.
I
Let's
want
start
what
this
you're
up.
smoking,
Second
dude.
smash.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
okay.
Yeah,
It's
we're
all
already
right.
starting.
We're gonna start. Let's just start. We're gonna go around the table. We're gonna start, Joe, with you.
Sure.
Number 20, the lowest ranked by power level team in the Overwatch League.
Number 20, the 20th seed on my power rankings. I have the Florida Mayhem as
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And you're not gonna back it up yet. I want to go to
no, that's fine.
Yiska.
We can round table.
Number 20 for you.
Chengdu.
Chengdu.
Man,
I think
Of
I'm gonna get a
course.
lot of hate for this one.
what?
Justice.
Ooh, okay.
You can
I
make
don't-
Yiska. I know you know I'm a delicate little bird, but when you when you just go, ooh, I know what you're thinking, and you think it's
No,
bad. I think it's bad.
I don't think that's bad at all. I think like that's not out of the question
I don't believe
for
in
me personally.
I don't believe in them.
I
They're too green. There's too much. There's a lot of upside to that team, I think.
there
But-
yes, there can be.
Oh,
But
I
we haven't
forgot.
seen
I
it.
wanna record this. Let me see if I can find. Where
Oh,
Okay. We'll do this right here. Okay.
Live
Alright, yeah.
mixing.
So, we're gonna record this because this is.
this is what most rankings that I ever see. This is what they say, and then I'm just gonna bam this thing out all episode long.
I think this team has a lot of upside. I think they could do pretty well in surprise.
Yeah,
I think this
yeah.
team has a lot of upside. I think they could do pretty well in surprise. I think this team has a lot of upside. I think they could do pretty well in surprise.
Yes. That's the
So-
perfect caveat.
Just super
Every time-
non-speak.
I was going through, and I was in part of my research for doing all of this. I went to, I was looking at like what reactions from the community on the Reddit posts and stuff, and every single top-rated comment on every single new roster announcement was basically some form of like, their team didn't quite perform, but there was a lot of upside. This person has a lot of potential. Stop it. Quit copping out.
Stop it, chat.
Quit copping out. Anyways, let's talk about our rankings a little bit. This is going to be free for all at this point, so just go
All right.
for it. I want to hear Yiska's reaction to Joe's mayhem. Is he literally just laid back in his chair with his mouth open and a loud exhale?
I
don't know
mean,
what that
the
was.
fool who persists in his folly will become wise, right?
This
So-
you're gonna wholeheartedly call me the fool when you couldn't even name me what players play what role on that team, and you're gonna be able to fairly judge.
I mean, A, that's not true. B, there's no star player
Okay.
on this.
You keep saying that, but you don't know who you're talking about.
Dude, we had this talk 10 million times already. We talked about the players that are out. I think, for instance, there is absolutely a team that could be upper mid tier that is composed of entirely Chinese players.
Sure.
Newsflash, none of them are on this team. Absolutely
Gotcha.
none of the starting players would be on there.
You
And if so, it would be those towards the lower end of the sea. And let's not forget, even the ones you would call top performers, These boys are getting their boosting bands in as well, my friend. You know it's happening as well.
I don't know about that, my friend. I can't speak on that because I have no info. So if you'd like to divulge some, I'd like to hear. But I think a lot of China.
Amount of Miraculous Youngsters players didn't join season 1 because they thought they weren't going to be able to play because they ran services, my dude. Like,
we'll see. If that's the case, then sure. But I think a lot of it had to do with the absolute backhanded nature that Shanghai was built under. They said, "Oh, we're not going to get an owl past this mess. I'm going to go move on to greener pastures, go on to PUBG." That didn't work out. Now they're coming back, and they still have talent. You see, leave. I had question marks around him going into World Cup. Came out
still not on that team
because he's too young.
Sure, keep going.
So okay, let's go through this. You're telling me that the team or the coach that you picked during Owl Pellets is going to be last place in Overwatch League season?
Yeah.
When you have a retirement home in Florida.
I mean, to be fair, Florida is also pretty low on my list.
Yes. As they should be.
They at least have a sire player, my friend. That is at least a player that has an argument to be made to be in one of the top positions.
Never seen any of these kids play. You haven't.
A bunch of them played on China in the World Cup, dude.
Really? A bunch of them.
Fucking
a bunch of them. Really? A bunch of them. What's a bunch? Define me a bunch.
Two.
I've got a bunch of balls. I've got a bunch of balls down there.
So you're telling me the Chinese main support, Vettel, was bad?
I mean, it's hard to judge those. I'm not sure if, like,
I'm waiting.
If he's the shot caller, mechanically, he was not outstanding. No, he was not good.
I'm on Team Joe on this one, man.
Like, people like Cruz outshine him so hard, it's unreal.
I don't have Chengdu high. Do you have Chengdu? You can't tell us where you have Chengdu.
What's high? What's high?
Okay, that's enough.
That tells
me
already
enough.
folly.
So I don't think that they're the worst. I don't think that they'll be the worst. There's some really good Chinese players, and because of how chaotic the Chinese team region is, it's really difficult on the outside to like make basis like estimates on individual skill. It's just it's so chaotic. You have a couple of teams with like really hard carries, but besides that, it's Joe knows better than anyone. Like the Chinese people say the Chinese region is worse because it's more chaotic. And
it's just different.
It's just kind of like saying, I mean, I don't know, like Chinese baseball is that's a bad analogy.
That'd probably be the only one.
Yeah, I'm not going.
Maybe basketball. Like I think they actually have like a pretty popular like basketball scene in China where it's like Chinese basketball might be just different. It might look different from what we view in the West. And it's you can't compare the two. But when you actually see them compete in international competition, and again, like I'm no expert in basketball by any means, but I wonder if they would be able to, like I wonder if like their style would just be a poor matchup for some NBA teams. Like I seriously wonder that, and that's the same thing that I approached Chengdu with. And I won't go into some of the reasons why I am a little bit higher on them than what it seems like my fellow hosts are, but I will say that I relatively
had to suffer from their play for a complete season.
Suffer.
Yes.
This is
that sucks also right now.
What are you talking
about? Psychologist for this kid.
What are you talking about? This isn't even a team. This isn't even like a team that was just drafted over. Somebody built this.
I realized that.
Okay, so how would I be suffering from them watching them when this is just like a team?
Players.
This was not suffering. I could have
I give you that. You couldn't suffer from all of them because some of them didn't even play Overwatch last year. Like, or this year. Like,
I do have to bite the bullet on that. And that's another reason why I have them fairly low. If they brought on people like Crystal, like Leaf, if he was of age, I'll bring somebody in like Eileen, I would probably have them higher.
Yes. All of those.
But you're gonna. I think you'll be surprised at their backline actually looks good from China. But yeah, I could have moved out a few pieces here and there. The backline actually looks fairly good. Kyo and Gary, Sig Zens, Yvetel, quite good. I think Jinmu is going to be like the star-ish DPS player. I don't think he's going to be a super standout, but this is a team that isn't like. I will agree with your sentiment that I don't think that they have a star player, but I don't think you need necessarily a star player. I think if you have star players, that's great for you. But we saw a team like Philadelphia last season; they had a bunch of star players. They did very well, but again, super inconsistent. If your star players just don't happen to have a great game, your team looks flat.
Soul had star players last season.
There you go.
I think
Fleta.
probably a better
Linkser,
Yep.
Houston.
Yep. So, all right, I like that. Number 20, getting the stretching out.
Well,
those
okay.
vocal cords.
So let's. I want to hear just like let's touch on Washington.
I think this team has a lot of upside. I think they can do pretty well in surprise.
There's just not enough to know about these players. I know that they've had a lot of. I won't say I know, but I've heard from many different sources that there's just a lot of budgetary constraints, not just on the roster itself, but then what that carries into the regular season. I think I look at some people where like Sam, I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to see, former Meta Athena, they got relegated to Open Division and they didn't even finish in top 8 in Open Division.
Yeah, I think they dropped out.
But Sam was probably the brightest spot for me there. And so I really want to see him in Overwatch League, but I can't look at a team that has players who got relegated to Open Division and be like, this is a really strong team. Corey, maybe the best unsigned Western hit scan, at least US hit scan anyways. But again, Legion finished, didn't even finish top 4 in contenders. Stratus, unexceptional to me. Ado, probably the only bright spot, I would say, in Shanghai Season 1. There's just, I look and I go, okay, you've got Ado, Phasix is whatever, but I just don't see this as a strong roster at all that can compete unless Wizard Young has some sort of amazing coaching techniques.
Godlike.
Which, I guess analysts on former winning teams might, but I don't know. I do like that 3 of their American players are from Pennsylvania, so I see what they're doing there. Building up that local fan base a little bit, but I just don't see a world where this is a good team. So, and
that's fair.
That's just basically, and I'll admit, I will totally admit there are some Hianu I actually don't know a whole lot about, but I know you've actually ranked him pretty high, Joe, I think in the past, and you've talked pretty highly of him, haven't you?
I don't think so.
Good.
I don't think we
disagree.
can at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think we have enough data at all.
So I just I don't know. This looks to me like if we ranked Boston so low last season, I don't know why Justice would be ranked any higher than that based on the experience on these.
I think when we looked at Boston, I don't think we saw, or at least I don't think we properly evaluated how much of an impact Striker, and I don't think we properly evaluated Dreamcast. Think what you want about it, but he actually was, a fairly good player. Transgressions aside, pretty.
Or I think there's 4 or 5 players on
solid players.
6 start on their starting 6 that we didn't properly evaluate.
Yes, but I will agree with what you're saying. You looked at the Korean core that they brought over for Boston. You're like, okay, if they can play around those players, they could actually be quite good. And it turned out, to be the case. When I look at the core for Washington, I see Otto. I'm like, sick player. I was super high on him when I saw him play in some Korean Cup way back when. Put up some amazing numbers on Genji. is consistent, can provide that projectile DPS. Sick player, right? Big pick. And then I look at Janus, and I'm like, you know what? I've watched this kid for a long time. I think he's grown a lot, but still, I wonder how much he ranks against some of the top tanks. I've been pretty...
Especially when he has to be the carry now.
Yes, he's the only main tank, right? So he doesn't even have a backup. So if there's no stylistic change up that they could have, if there's a change in the meta, you don't see them changing him off. Like I think he's most proficient on your traditional. So if there is a transition to an Orisa meta like we saw towards the end of last season, is he going to be able to thrive? I don't know. And then I look at Guido. He plays Tracer. He's on support now. I don't know how. I can't evaluate him highly. Soul didn't play him. It could be for numerous reasons, but I can't give him a meta benefit. Hyunwoo, I haven't heard very positive things on. Kha'Zix, for a Western support, I've heard fairly good things. I don't have them high either. I'll teaser. Don't have them.
Yeah, there's no player. I think Janus and Ado are like the two.
Yes,
that I go,
yes.
We have the data. We have a good amount of data, and the data that we have is actually pretty positive. The rest of these players, at the very least, I would say Corey for me is Corey and Sansam are two people who I'm really interested in, and those two players I think are going to be where this team hinges their success on. But that success for them is 15th, not top 10. Not.
I mean, they could pull something out, and this is again, I think Washington and Boston. Yes, but I do think that there are two narratives that, there's one narrative that two teams share, and it's that system being proven and tested, and it's Boston and it's Washington. If Wizard Young is this big shot money ball expert that he's kind of putting forward, then this Washington team should be representative of that. And the same thing with Boston. If you have Huck has shown to be proficient in scouting talent, and this roster that he's fielding this season looks to be very indicative of that same kind of mentality. So if that system is going to be litmus tested, this is the season that it's really going to have to be put on the line.
You think Huck not Krusty before Krusty left?
I think it had a lot more to do with Huck than it did with Krusty.
Okay, that's fair.
But I think that that is a fair caveat to that, where it's just like, well, how much say in the team building process did Krusty have in that? I have to kind of give that stance up as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I think.
Anyways,
let's go 19.
Let's go to 19.
You want to go to 19?
Let's go to 19. Yiska, you're going to go up first on this one. Who's your number 19?
Florida, of course.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
We have
wait.
So
okay. Sorry.
Yiska says Florida. I also say Florida 19. All right.
I've got Boston.
You damn fool.
Again, like you could. This is where Huck can prove me wrong. He proved me wrong last time, but I think we got a little bit of we skated out on those Koreans. Now that they're gone, okay, nope, you don't have any more Koreans. Well, not to say that you don't have any more Koreans, but a lot of the very prominent ones, they're gone. They went to other teams. If this is going to be tested, I'll be happy to eat crow on this. You know what I mean? But when I look at this team, I do not see a strong team.
So the reason I don't have Boston that low is simply because I think it is probably not fair. So, okay, we know that two factors are gone.
Sure.
One we all can't really talk about openly. The other is Krusty. So here, you have to give some points towards Krusty for making Boston happen as much. So you have to deduct some points, also seeing the stage 4 drop-off and whatever, towards the current Boston roster. At the same time, I don't think you can erase all of it, because some stuff is still there. A bunch of players are still there. People are acting like Gamsu and Note aren't still on that team. They are, and they're still pretty good players.
They're
not
feeling
absolute star players, but that they are a very solid front line. And if we know anything about front lines in Overwatch, they are sort of pretty important. And I also think that they have a better front line than a lot of the bad teams in the league. So also, Boston is high effort in that regard. And also, if you're willing to push people a little bit more than other teams for reasons,
sure,
then you are probably going to get a little bit more out of them. So I can totally see how this works out, how Boston might have made a better effort to scout talent or whatever. And I'm willing to give them a higher placing because of that. I'm not sure if Florida has done such. It feels really like they've gotten the third-tier Koreans that nobody wants anymore.
Yes, and that's exactly why I have them last.
This is a flash luck simulator for Saya player once again.
If you could have named me those players, to kind of harp on Florida a little bit, you could have named me those players last season. I would have been like, yeah, that's last season's team, though.
So I
look at all the talent that they've signed for season 2, and you're going to sign last season's talent.
My note for this for Mayhem is literally LSL, last season's leftovers.
Yes, very much so. That's the retirement home for, you know, some okay Korean talent. Saya player, yes, that's the standout player. If they're going to do well, it's going to be on his back.
Yeah,
I think get him off this team.
Chris could do something really interesting on that team as well. It's supports, right? Like if we don't have like carries and yadas, how much can you really carry a support anyway? So
I do agree with you there that like if we're going to transition into like a very tank focused, you know, whether it be goats, whether it be any kind of other I do think Chris could actually be a little bit better than what people are expecting. But you've got to play two-way. Not going to see playtime. You have Tavik, not going to see playtime.
I'm not even sure about that one.
Okay, well, okay. So let's hypothetically say he does see playtime.
Mm-hmm.
Even worse than what I expected. Like if I could go 21, I probably. Zephyr, like you actually spoke out on this as a positive thing going into season 2. Look at some of these front lines that teams have drafted. You've got some sick talent coming in, and you went with Zephyr and SNT, formerly Awesome Guy, who didn't really have a great season last season. Like, not great.
I will also say if we like are actually right in that Florida will finish pretty low down. It's actually a legitimately much worse season than they had last year. Simply because, okay, the league is bigger. If I'm right, like they're second to last, but they also like switched away from this, you know, like Western idea, so PR tanks here. And overall, I'm not sure if the organization that acted as they did last season is willing to shell out in the off season, in the mid season. I'm not sure. What I will think is that they will bring in additional coaching talent. Otherwise, that's the disaster in the making once again, where coaches are burnt out. They probably have to get someone else, or one or two people even. And depending on their quality and also their say in the team and how they can, you know, improve the players, that might be a thing. I'm not sure who's left in Korea for that one, because you probably want a Korean coach ideally. But yeah, that's a problem. I think that there's really no player on that team where I think, other than Saya player, of course, this guy has immense talent to get it again. I would have loved to see, by the way, if, for instance, Tivig was on a project like Paris, for instance, where we could have seen him like the redemption arc type of thing. I'm not sure. Like this team cannot be that for him if he does play indeed, right? We don't know. So by the way, I'm half expecting that he will play like not DPS. It's that might happen. I'm not sure. Like you
think he's gonna go flex tank?
I'm not sure. I no idea. I have no idea how he even slots into that team, but I think he could play like. Try to play as flex as possible to help his team. I think he was always someone that was very much into trying hard, shutting up, and doing the work, right? And doing the most for his team. I think I would have liked to see a team that facilitates that more. Maybe it's time for his career also to move that, because if you look across esports history, right, you have like this former star players, wave one star players, and then their mechanics aren't, absolute top tier anymore, and then you move into utility roles, and their experience and their mind for the game, the drive, that is something that can influence the team. I'm not sure if that transcends cultural barrier.
I don't know if I agree with them being utility roles, unless like it's more like they're moved into roles that are a little bit more forgiving on like the positioning and mechanic side, but maybe less so on like the smart side, the game awareness side. It's something that otherwise I totally agree. I just don't know if like, utility players are where bad players go to die or whatever.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me, though, so am I crazy here in thinking that I would take Manitin over Zephyr and Logix over BQB?
Yes. Well, you're not crazy. I would agree with you. Like if you were gonna if you were gonna make like a Western roster again, which I think they could have. I think they could have easily made like a European, bring in some more coaches, and just reinvent their team. And just keep the European like kind of focused nature of that team. I think they could have done well. Like they started to have like an uptick last season. Still wasn't great, but I don't see the random flip to Korean and think that it's just gonna work. Like again, you have a very, very loose core here. Saya player and Chris played on a team. Saya player and an awesome guy and Chris did play on a team. Met Athena for a little bit, not too long. Not too long.
Yeah,
not a solid core there for me. And again,
I think the worst thing that we saw from season 1 Mayhem was their support line, in a lot of ways. And I think that this is an improvement on that, which isn't hard, but I think it is an improvement. I think Chris could be very surprising. The whole.
I think this team has a lot of upside. I think they could do pretty well in surprise.
But I think Chris could be definitely a part of that kind of like X factor thing that makes them do quite well. But besides that, like there's not even like a margin for error for this team. Where it's like even with like Washington Justice in a lot of ways, there's that like really small percentage of like a really surprising. This is not a team that has surprises left.
I think I could agree that you could have some margin there, with the same sense that you look at Washington and you see like 2 players standing. I think people do kind of sleep on Swan a little bit. That's true. I think that he is a bit of a mystery. Like I was pretty high on him very early on in the Apex era, but as of late, haven't seen a ton from him. Again, I will kind of put that out there that I am not very familiar with like a couple seasons of like NA contenders. Haven't been keeping up there. But he's always been somebody that I've remembered and actually stuck out just a little bit like as a main tank. But again, when you compare him to the field, to Yiska's point, and I do want to kind of touch Boston on this as well. The main tank additions that they've made, big players being added. Is Swoon Zephyr going to be able to make that up? I don't think so. But if you do, if you are going to kind of give Justice the benefit of the doubt, I think you can give Flora the benefit of the doubt when you look at Saya player. And I think if I was going to give it to any other player, I might give it to BQB. His proficiency on Sombra, what was it during season 1 contenders in Korea? It was quite good, like very, very, very good Sombra player. So I wonder if he could transition that into another role. I don't know. But if they are going to do that, it is going to be a very DPS centric team, which historically not been a great look for team. But I think you can see them maybe jump up a little bit, maybe during a stage. But yeah, not a great team.
Yeah, I don't. Yep. I mean, but we all agree here, bottom 2. Like
yes, very much so.
Interesting.
In the grand scheme of being close to each other, plus or minus 1 spot is basically an agreement. So we all think that Mayhem will not do well.
If I can use my one button press here, I think there's a possibility that they change. They actually get a grip and say, okay, none of this is working. We're switching some stuff around.
Who did that last season?
Shanghai.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, that's true.
Not a good look to just abandon all of your practice that you've done through the preseason. Who knows? Through stage 1, who knows what it looks like.
Define didn't work out, though, because they already had
They won
wins.
0 games.
Yeah, you could go 0 and like 15. Yeah.
They had 0 before, and then they had 0 after. Like, that's not exactly didn't work out. I need to see if they won more maps in the later stages or not.
I think that there was like an uptick in terms of map performance. But it's just not it's not smart for the long run. Like, you're just abandoning a roster that you've already sunk time into.
Been winning a game
yes,
for them,
yes.
and they didn't win a game. So fair enough.
Yeah.
18.
I want to touch on Boston a little bit more. I just like last thoughts on Boston. Like, we can talk to the cows come home about these front lines and like, oh yeah, look at all the cool talent that we brought in. Are you really telling me that Gamsu and or Axiom and Note are killer front line?
No, but they're better than the bottom third of the league.
They're good. They're decent. Solid. I don't look at that team and go, dang, look at all these other better front lines in the bottom 5, bottom 6.
I don't see it. I like, again, I don't know. I think this season is going to be the season of like tank play. And it just does not look like a Fusion's 2-way. Maybe.
Look at the experience those two have together as well. Is something like how many other tank lines in your bottom 6 have played together?
Yeah, I will say not a lot.
This is an audio show. You got to keep the audio rolling.
I don't see them doing that well. I don't see Gamsu playing all that often.
I don't think they're doing that well either, but I don't think they're 19.
I think they're quite low. I think Gamsu just kind of like is not built for. He kind of like jetted last season. Didn't feel like being here. I mean, even then they had Kaliosa main tank and they fed.
Yeah, no. What I think will happen is he will probably start this season.
Sure.
And then he'll transition into a coaching role.
Yes.
That has been.
So I can't in good faith tell you. I find it difficult for you to tell me in good faith that Gamsu and Note are a sick team, and then you also tell me that he'll transition to a coaching. So then you're looking at either Fusions or Axiom and Note. By no means am I throwing shade at Note. I actually quite think Note is quite good, and I would like to see him on another team. I think he could thrive. But in the same sense, the Saya player, like, he's just kind of not in a place for success. And I could be wrong. Huck could prove me wrong again. I rated Boston low last season, and I unfortunately have to rate them low again for the reasons that I've said.
I'm not rating him 6 this year. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I just don't think they've had a great offseason. They've kept some players that have been okay, but what?
That's a good point in chat, by the way, that they might promote Asking, for instance.
I don't think that's a good move. I don't think that's a good move at all. You can bring someone in that's like a star player. He might win you a few games here and there. But if you bring someone in that has a history, and again, maybe this is my perception being off, but I constantly hear from very notable sources that he is not necessarily the best team. I'll put it like that.
The best what?
The best teammate.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And this is a team that focuses very much from the top-down structure. If Huck thinks that he can kind of tame Asking and bring him in and really kind of hone him down and make sense of exactly what's maybe going wrong within those previous teams and try to correct it for this team, so be it. Like, again, I'll be happy to be wrong, but as of right now, I can't rate them high. Like, they might get Asking.
Then again,
they could get leave. I don't know. They could get a lot of good players.
Do you want me to hit
they made that house work.
Sure, they did. And again, like, I'll say this again. I'll be happy to wipe the dirt off my if they've proved me wrong. And I'll just give it up to Huck. I'll write an article about Huck. I already kind of have, a Google Doc drafted up. Like, you know what? Maybe Huck's system If he can prove me wrong, stage one, I'll be like, you know what? Hats off to you, dude.
Just
I have
as a
nothing
side
but
point, this
nothing.
is actually a dope storyline narrative going into the future, because there are key leadership roles in Overwatch. Was it Young, Hawk, Krusty? These people have to prove to us that they are the geniuses, or the that see the code and the matrix for what it is and can fix that. And if any of those three dudes get like a top half finish, or like a playoff finish, they proved that. That's fine. Yes. I'm believing you now.
He proved that in season 1. Hats off to you, dude. Sick. You don't have your star players anymore. You don't have those star supports anymore. Gamsu is a big question mark for me. If you can pull it off this season, all right, fine. I have to trust in the system then.
I agree.
One season isn't enough, I think.
Not for me.
To believe in the system. And again, just because I'm not putting him at 19 doesn't mean we're not in relative agreement.
No, for sure. But I'm, of course, I'm trying to put a little bit of mustard on the hot dog.
I get it. Well, and that's the thing here is you got to defend your position. Tooth and nail. You do. And for that reason, we're going to go to number 18. And it's my turn to go first. So Chengdu Hunters for me.
You people.
All right, Joe. What do you have? 18?
Lord.
18, I have the Houston Outlaws.
Oh my God.
What?
No, Joe, no. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, you have to say yours.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
You have to say yours.
Oh, sorry. I'll just say Washington and let you elaborate on Houston, because that's a story for me.
I think that's the big one that we need to discuss here.
So we've talked to the cows come home about these front lines. Muma cool Matt. Muma's not the strongest I've seen. Muma, I think, is solid. Don't get me wrong. I think he's good. Is he as good as Popo Daco? Is he as good as Gesture Fury? No, don't think so. Backline, pretty suspect. Movement in the offseason, 0. No moves.
And that's exactly the reason, dude. Like, if they have a bad stage 1, by the time Infinite has their stuff figured out, they pull the trigger and they get them, dude.
24.
We know the new superstars in Contenders. We are in somewhere in the, like, we had one full season of Contenders, and then I think we're starting up the next one. We have a pretty good idea, and it goes boom, dude.
Yiska.
Like the little pistols on their thingy. They're sniping these top talents
again. Who didn't sign Stitch last season?
Well.
So you're telling me that the team who decided, and we can argue about whether or not this was a good decision, from a measurement of success or like a redefinition of success kind of standpoint. But you're telling me a team who like objectively decided to kind of stray away from Runaway is going to just turn a new page and say, you know what? I have come to God, and I see the light, and I can now draft sick players.
Because here, like, that happens when cognitive dissonance sets in.
That's the biggest argument for them. Is just like, they don't know how to scout players, and now they're going.
No. What will happen is, okay, the project Houston Outlaws was not a failure in season 1. It wasn't. They had a successful stage 1.
Great stage 1.
They almost made it into playoffs. Let's not play them down too much.
Sure.
They absolutely could have been in playoffs. And then just think of them as who slipped in actually at 6. Was it?
I'll bring it up. Hold
on.
Boston, right? Like, if Houston gets in, we're talking completely different universes here. I think we shouldn't overvalue this 1 or 2 games differences too much.
Oh, sorry,
I
Fusion
think
sorry. Season standings, Fusion.
Philly snuck in.
I mean, think of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's like they have a system that has not proven to not work. I say, though, I understand, and I'm with you here. By not improving, they are really dropping behind, and they are also in my lower third. I can tell you that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they will have a bad stage 1. I'm not sure if they will have one of the worst 3 stage 1s, but I think that by that time, and the reason why they couldn't change it up as well, is the restrictions with their mother org. I think there might be some restrictions there in terms of making contracts and whatever that we've seen. And maybe they would have changed stuff up.
Sure,
and we're also hearing that they might switch stuff up already before.
Sure. Yes, there have been, but yeah, there have been stirrings that they, some teams might be adding players late. That's fine. That's dandy. Great. Again, I still not big, me personally, not big on just, scrapping a core part of your roster that you've already spent a preseason on. You've already spent stage 1 on. Now you're going into stage 2. You're looking at the midseason. You go, you know what? My backline, throw them away. I don't think that's a good idea. I think they've moved so late. They got down to a season late.
Yeah.
Like, this team does not look good on paper. Yes, fine and dandy. Great. You guys did wonderful last season. What about everybody's made some sick signings?
Here's something, and this is just like, I come from like a really intense sports background. So I know how important it is in traditional sports, which, Yiska, I know you hate the parallels.
Here we go.
But in traditional sports, keeping a core together is sometimes better than having better individual players. It just is.
Yes. I mean, I think you would agree with that.
And so for me personally, I think stage 1 and into stage 2 is going to be their best performances, as everybody else who doesn't have their core together
Sure.
Is trying to figure stuff out, adjust to the schedule. I think that they're going to do better than the top half. I think they're going to be in like the top 10 in that stage 1. And then I don't think they'll come close to that, the other stages.
So you think they're going to peak early and then slump?
Yeah, I think they've got everything together. They've had all year to practice. They've all year to play together. They know each other. There's no other roster probably that knows each other as well as the Houston Outlaws.
I will say, if that is actually true, I think Joe's placing might come to pass, simply because if they have a good stage 1, they're probably not making much changes in stage 2, which is the transfer, where presumably, we don't know, that's just my assumption, opens. That might ruin their season, actually, because, like, thinking you don't need upgrades is a problem.
Yes. I like, to your point, right? So you think like, okay, peak early, maybe mid-season, they make a signing, they could peak, that's where the avenue. Something similar happened last season with them. They were hurting for another DPS player. Who did they sign? Yiska?
A mascot.
Exactly. Again, we have to revisit your point.
Yeah, not wrong. Yeah.
Mid-season, they're gonna make some sick signings. Infinite's gonna come with the money bags. We're just buying out people left and right. They signed Arhan willing.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. Yeah.
When you're not wrong, you're not wrong. I rest my case.
They signed Fact Fiction.
It's not that much different.
Hey, they signed Fact Fiction too, by the way.
So. Sure. And then, I think for a Western main tank, like very serviceable.
Don't forget Fact Fiction.
For the Overwatch League,
he's playing real flexible in contenders right now.
I get that.
So the other thing I do want to say is that we can say whatever we want about Cool Matt and Muma based on how they finished. But in stage 1, if they weren't one of the best looking tank duos in Overwatch League, I don't
100% agree with you. But that, again, stage 1 or season 1.
And I agree. You know what I mean? You can't just use hindsight to justify moving.
I think you can to a degree. I don't
just use.
Yes, it can't be the baseline of your argument is like, well, they did good season 1. Great. You know who didn't? You know who wasn't around? Toronto. You know who wasn't around or like could look kind of like middling in like stage 3? London. Look what happened there.
Lots
Boston.
can change. Then again, too, hopefully we have better. We have there's a lot more than just like pure talent that caused a lot of those changes too. We had patch changes all the time. We had teams who only had days to prepare for new patch changes. There's a lot of things that could have favored other less skilled teams who could make adjustments faster. Like there was a lot going on. Anyways, I don't agree at all with Houston Outlaws at all at 18. I get why you did it.
It's too low.
But I still think Yiska said it. I have them in my lower third as well. I don't think this is a great team.
I think that's maybe why I have, or maybe that's why on my on my power rankings I have some of the expansion teams actually rated a little bit higher, because I have I think just within my pillars of how I'm judging these teams, I look at teams that have just willingly not made power moves that they could have done, and I seriously question that, and I look at those teams and I have to evaluate them lower, just what I from like a moral standpoint, you know what I mean? Like it's just something I feel very strongly about, that if you're not consistently trying to iterate your roster and improve on it, there's been serious holes.
Do you feel the same about London?
I do, and we've talked about this before the show. I kind of had a grading system that I've built alongside, where I seriously debated with myself whether or not I would want to put London, or I could willingly put London within the top spot as a championship team. Yes, they
spoilers. Abort spoilers for the list.
Well, yeah, not I no spoilers. This is again something that I had to debate with myself. I debated with myself on putting them as a championship level team. Yes, they did win season 1. They peaked very hard towards the end, but they also had that massive valley. Stage 1 again started off on a very, very high note, but that massive peak into that massive valley, into that peak again, screams inconsistency to me. So they have a sick roster. There's no doubt about that. That's not something I'll ever argue, and that's something that I go back and look at Oversight when we did like the super episode. That was something that I had to caveat there, where it's just like, yes, I don't have them winning in the playoffs, but if by some miraculous reason they can get this roster together and they can perform, they have the best roster in the Overwatch League. They arguably have the best roster. I think you could argue NYXL for a little bit there, but I think London, again, on paper, has some of the best players. If you can get them to work, sick team. That's what happened. They got them to work. Something clicked. You hear that time and time again when you hear their interviews. Something clicked after that first game. They came out and just flipped the table. So I seriously had to debate whether or not I put them at like A or S. I don't know. You'll have to see when that comes out. I don't know if you want to move on to 17.
So who did you put for 18, Yiska?
Washington.
What
did you have again?
I had Chengdu.
Oh yeah. Okay,
I think that's a little bit more fair, but I seriously think they're gonna surprise people.
Lord. Okay, towards Washington, I think they're one of the teams with the highest variance.
I agree.
In the league, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm not fully buying the wizardry yet. I'm willing to learn. It is very well PR'd. I'm not sure. There are cracks in that recently. Their scrims, from what I heard, I can't say too much, but I'm not sure how quality they are.
I mean, come on now. Are we competing for scrim bucks now?
No. I'm just saying, like, you probably should.
Yes, there's a degree where, like, I know what you're saying, and there is a degree where scrim performance does have to hold some weight.
Yeah.
And there's like a very hard and fast breaking point where if you're just not performing, like, people will not scrim you. I don't know if that's happened.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
The thing is, there's still 2 months to go, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But like, we said that a month ago, and from what I keep hearing, the improvement wasn't drastic. So now I'm getting worried, right? But I think there's a possibility. Also, in my mind, they do have star power with Ado and Janus. Dude, this might be okay. You're probably going to say that is a stupid point, but I wonder why you would put Janus as the only main tank. That is a gamble for me for several reasons. A, he was never the consistent starter throughout his career, I would say. Also, and this is super unfair, but there are concerns about health also.
Really? Oh, yeah, true.
With his collapsed lungs in the past.
Collapsed lung.
Twice, I think, already.
And I think the more that you, again, I'm not a doctor, so, don't hold me to this, but I think there is a
Janus, right? Yeah.
Like there is a consistency factor to having collapsed lungs that they do the more that you have them, the more predisposed you are to having them again. I think. Don't hold me to that. So I mean, I think that is a serious concern though.
Was it Janus?
Consult
I tried to learn them
your
yesterday.
primary
consult your physician.
guys, by the way, not Joe.
I think it's Janus. I think so.
I just say Janice.
No,
People get it.
okay. What do you mean, Yiska? Like, what are you trying to?
Janus.
Pronouncement.
Oh,
Pronunciation. Pronouncement.
At least in Korea, that's how they pronounce it. Janus.
Yeah. Okay.
Janus.
You're getting there.
Not Janus.
Janus.
We're getting there.
All right.
Janus.
Cool. No one's gonna fight me on
please
Chengdu. I'll take that. And let's go to 17. Joe.
Ooh.
17. I have Washington. I think.
Boston.
Okay. Yeah. Tripod. 17.
Uprising.
Ah, same.
Yeah, I
Alright.
think those are all fair. Again, they all
I
kind
feel
of
like Yiska and I went from the same notes or something because I think we've had just like one.
I think here's where it gets different. Maybe we'll see.
I think
Probably.
we all kind of argued about those same teams within this last discussion. Do you want to just kind of snap move 16? I think we've all kind of talked about.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, snapping to 16. Yiska, you're up first.
Houston.
Okay. So for me, I have Paris.
I have Chengdu at 16.
Lord.
You damn
Lord.
fool.
Wow,
I'm just kidding.
I seriously cannot wait for them to come out again. You know who coaches this team? Head coach, Bray. Who did he coach before, Yiska? You tell me.
Yeah, but that was cool last season. You have to go with the times.
It's cool to develop compositions to defeat people, right? It's cool to do that last season, but no, we can't do that now though. Something that China's
Who did that in the past as well? Wasn't that
What?
Metathena?
Did they develop compositions or did they just use May every once? Did they have some cool strategies? Sure, but did they develop brand new compositions that nobody's ever seen before? Were people running Reinhardt, Zarya, Reaper before into dive into like the pinnacle of dive meta? Were people running that? I don't think so. MY what? Who's running quad DPS nowadays?
Your mom.
China.
I mean, China and Korea. Yeah.
A little bit of Korea. So there's some Korean talent that are validating that strategy on certain maps. Again, but China consistently will iterate on something. If they cannot play it, they will not, and they will find something else to. And they will be fairly successful because nobody's going to practice for that because literally you have 20 other teams that are playing the same thing. Yes. Yeah. Are they going to be the cheesy team? 100%. At least I hope.
I'm just saying when this is all said and done, I'll climb up in my lodge hood up to your little hill and you will lie there and there will be another guy lying next to you. I will break off his finger. It's Bacon Jack. I'll just go, it had to be this way. Lord.
Are you chewing on a comb, by the way?
It's a comb.
That was bacon.
That's a comb.
Oh, bacon. Okay.
It's absolutely a comb. Chat.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Who did you have for 16?
Yiska.
Me?
Yeah.
Houston.
Got it.
So I still think there's some parity between 16 to 20 for.
Yeah.
I'm hearing better stuff about Houston right now, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's also
heard the same thing.
Very scary thing in all of this when you hear things about teams.
I hate hearing things about teams because you know what I heard about coaches all the time from players. Oh, everybody sucks. Everybody doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Coaches don't do. Pretty dumb takes, guys. Not smart.
There's a book by I forgot his first name, but Silver is his name, and it's called The Signal and the Noise. And it's like basically making forecasts, and some information is just pure signal, and these are very hard, like good evidence, and then there's noise that you should basically just discard. And this, I keep hearing like, oh, they're very bad in scrims, and oh, they're not even getting scrims. And it's like, this is all white noise the entire time, but it seeps into me, dude. It's very hard to make yourself immune to this. So,
Definitely is.
yeah, and that's probably also a problem I mean, that is a fair thing to then analyze postseason, how true all this was. And we'll see. I think also one big problem is that either teams just started scrimming again, and that they aren't scrimming in all the same regions. And also, we have to say, a lot of the contenders teams have been scrimming and playing in competitions a long time, so they are actually beating Overwatch League teams handily in scrims. Then again, are the Overwatch League teams actually going in with the desired goal to win, which I personally would consider at this point to be wrong? Yes, Nate Silva, very good, thank you. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Especially the lower rungs, I think there's a lot of pollution of that also in my thinking. But the problem is that we also don't have that much information going on. And just going pound for pound, I think my evaluation here in Houston is fine. I think Dante is an upgrade over the Tracer issue, and also Sombra. But overall, my problem is Linkser is a star player for me. He has one of the desirable inconsistencies, which is you pretty much know when he's inconsistent. So you should be able to plan around it.
Do you?
But they aren't. They aren't.
Well, when can you know that Linkser is it a hair day?
Because
is it
no, it's tilt your, like, you basically have to carry him to the stage because he's scared, you know? Okay. So that is a very desirable trait in a player, by the way. If you know when someone is confident and peaks, and you can put him on these days.
Yeah, it's a desirable attribute when you have somebody that can sit alongside him and be the who's their glue guy?
Yeah, that's the
is Jake Rat?
Maybe, or Dante. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that really
Dante's
depends
pretty young
on
to be a glue guy. I think
it depends on what meta is played.
I think Dante
if it's still 3-3. What is Dante?
I love Dante, but
I think Dante has displayed an ability to pick up characters if his team needs it. I'm not.
But are you going to rate them like that highly though?
Yeah, no.
I do not think this team is built for like the long term at all. Built was the same thing last season, and everybody else has been signing studs, absolute powerhouse, signings at some of these teams. Like, look at Atlanta. I think Atlanta has made some big power moves, like that people are seriously sleeping.
Yeah.
Paris, not shabby, but
I
not
hate Paris.
Too much.
16.
Not better.
16.
I have them
16. Like
I will say, just real quick. I think if Houston can somehow squeeze into the 12th slot, I think they are an emotional team that can ride the hype wave into one of these expansion. Not like these play-ins, wildcard things, and can probably hurt one or the other team. But
I think they have to play well enough to get
for
those situations, though. If they don't play well enough to get to those situations, like if you don't put them in hype matches, then it doesn't matter how hype. How they can play well in an all-star game or something like that, because that's the closest that they'll get, and some of their players will get to play in all-star. But if you're not in a point where you can make stage playoffs or make these these important matches and kind of bring that storyline and hype to it, like, it doesn't matter.
Not I just don't see it. I agree that like they could ride the momentum, but in the same sense, you can use that as a negative argument and say that, like, okay, what happens if they start stage 1? Linkser won't go on stage. What do you do now? You've already had a season of having hero pick issues and trying to fill out the meta, and you just don't have the player. So okay, you maybe you do scrap some players and bring in new players mid-season. Okay, great. Depends on who you bring in. Depends on how many people you bring in.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about Paris, because I think both. Am I right, Joe, that the next in line would be Paris for both of us?
Yeah, I have Paris 15.
Okay, yeah, that's same for me. So it's a good time to talk about Paris. Okay, why did you have Paris in 16th, Kate?
So and I put a caveat on this in the sense that EU is my weakest region by far. But every time I watch it, I'm just so unimpressed. And when I look at this team, I go, yeah, soon he did great on the Valiant, but everybody else, like, I don't know if any of them I would want on my team standalone. Like, I don't know if there's anyone there that I think makes a good team, and I just don't know if they're good players. I don't know. Like, I remember Cruz from back in the day, and he was good, but I can't imagine he's improved so much. Didn't he take like 2 or 3 different breaks?
I'm not sure about that, but what I will say is, okay, so he had to switch roles once again after United. He was DPS. Then he, admittedly, this is far in the past. It's like OG stuff, but he's been playing support for a while now. But he had a very good World Cup, I will say.
Sure. And there were some players that I saw in the World Cup when I'm like, hey, that's great. I also think playing in the World Cup is totally different than playing in even contenders or definitely Overwatch League. Yes. And so, like, I'm great. I'm glad they played well in the World Cup. Does that translate super well? Not always. We've seen that multiple times.
No, but I will say it's like an extra data set to say, like, how good is this player individually?
And it's one of the few indicators we have to go off of. So I think you're being foolish if you don't include those. But at the same time, I hope that people look at just like
yes, I agree.
I mean, just like kind of.
You can't just go, oh, they had a sick World Cup, sign him right now. Who was the time? Was it a Taiwanese player or like a Brazilian player last year that was like, oh, sick, sign this guy right now? It's like, guys, it was one World Cup match that he looked. Again, it's World Cup.
For me, I want to see them do well in contenders and World Cup, like Gushue.
Sure.
Gushue, I'm like, poggers, baby. I'm ready for it. Poggers. But for, someone like Cruz, who I had, and again, admittedly, weak region. Overall, probably my weakest familiarity on any roster as far as players go. But I just like all the research I do into them and all the VODs I've watched, and I've seen like probably anywhere from 3 to 10 maps of each of these players. So it's not like I'm just totally flying blind. I just look and I just go, what a unexceptional team.
Oh.
Unexceptional.
You remember that discussion, Joe? Do you remember that when we had that here on this podcast about Paris? About them? Okay, so let me get into this as well, because from what we evaluated when Paris came out, I think. Podcast, and I wasn't as high on them, and I'm still not on the pound for pound player comparison. But what I will say is they have the strongest coaching staff, for my money, of the bad teams. And why do I say that? If you remember back to when we had that discussion, I said there was a multiplier in play that might become a reality, and that would then turn the team around. And that happened. Saita is now signed on. That's who I was talking about at the time. Because I think Saita not only has an ability to, like, he's always described as very efficient, very on point, but he also has an ability to improve front and back lines, and this is where consistent Overwatch comes from. This is what carries you through the season. DPS might win you a game, like this is pretty much like in football.
Yes,
tank lines and support lines will win you this season. So we've seen this also empirically in the PTK model. So I think here Paris has an upside simply because Saita is a master in terms of developing that talent in that regard. Though we have to, like, now that I'm praising all of this, we have to say software is only ever as good as the hardware is. And I think there's a problem for Paris here, even though their coaching staff also with Demon is very good. So
I worry about one thing. I worry about Kai's ability to play assistant coach. I really worry about that. Otherwise, I agree with you. And something that I probably didn't consider heavily enough is their coaching staff. Huge fan of Damon. Saita, as you said, like, has done incredible things. Maybe one of the bigger. He could be the Wizard Young of season 2. In a lot of ways, right? Where
I think that's a storyline that you could follow with Paris that it could develop over the season. Is like, okay, this is a new system that's if they can prove that you can trust the system, I'm going into season 3 like, yeah, Paris, I need to temper expectations, but I'm approaching season 3 Paris like I'm approaching season 2 Boston, and saying, you know what, they did okay in season 2. I don't know, like that is a developing narrative that I do want to follow, that I do have to kind of butt in and agree with.
Like this is something where like Kai, like I don't have a good, I'm going to use like a really hypothetical situation. And I hope he doesn't hate me for it. ZP is probably one of the most seasoned casters in competitive Overwatch. In honestly, in a lot of esports, just in general, and he's great. But when you pair him, like there's ZP has the ability to, if he's casting with someone less skilled than him, it's up to him to like bring himself down a little bit, because I think we've all had Twitter arguments with ZP before. And it's just very in your face. Can someone like Kai, who's used to calling the shots, who's used to be the guy on Twitter to say things, sit down and go, okay, Damon, okay, or, okay, Saida, like we're working together as a team now. Can he do that? I don't know. What I've seen publicly, I'm really skeptical. At the same time, like, I don't know, I don't believe in bad people for the most part. So like, I don't think that he's just like, I think the community calling someone a jackass is, I hate when people do that. I'm like, oh, you've never had a conversation with him before, and are just basing it off his Twitter statements. And so like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, how difficult is it? And we've seen this in professional sports when someone goes from a head coach, they don't do a good job, and they go to assistant coach or an offensive coach or defensive coach. What's it like to then have somebody who is not only younger than you, but less experienced than you calling the shots?
Well, to your point, like even going back to that traditional sports model, like let's take a coach, for instance. You name a sport, doesn't matter. So you start with a team, you leave the team, you go to another team, Houston Outlaws, you leave that team. Now you're as a viewer, as someone who's trying to try to be analytical about this and think critically about this, is that a good thing? I don't think so. I don't think quick turnover as a coach is necessarily a good thing. Right. So to your point, I kind of have to agree there. I don't know that it will matter as much, but I will give that ground up and agree. Like, yeah, I wonder if there is some worry there. I don't know.
I think we've seen enough. I want to add one thing and then let you go, Yiska.
Yeah,
I think we've seen a lot in Overwatch where a dysfunctional coaching and ownership staff can affect the team. I think we've seen that pretty unanimously in a couple of situations. So
yeah.
All right, Yiska, sorry. Go ahead, and we'll wrap up.
Okay, so another guy on the team that, in terms of coaching, that we shouldn't undervalue, especially in GOATS meta, is Feifei, right?
Former Eagles.
Head coach, of Eagles. He probably knows a thing or two about GOATS. He could be what Hayes is for Fusion. I also think Hayes is silently like a strategical mastermind, right? So if that is true, all really Kai has to do is what he was brought on for, which is mainly make the team comfortable in the US, because they're all Europeans and they still have to be in LA, and then help out with some stuff on the side. He has now gone through 2 different teams. I looked into the inner workings there a little bit. I think he worked out for the most part for Outlaws at least. Okay. So, I think so. There's a concept in medicine. It's called iatrogenics, and it's basically the first thing that a practitioner, a doctor, should make sure before he starts is don't make it worse, right? And I will also say a lot of doctors suck at this. A lot of illnesses or injuries you get in hospitals are very often because of doctors. So as long as Kai, or in general, like I don't want to pin it on him in the first place. As long as they can come together and not make it worse, I think they probably are the best team among the bad teams, so to speak, among the bottom third, right?
in the same sense, last thoughts on Paris for me. In the same sense that I think Chengdu is going to come out and play some different stuff. I think that both Damon and Saita have proven that they are very iterative in what they want to play and how they think about the metagame. And you could see Paris come out and play some weird stuff. Pound for pound, though, on their roster sheet, I like a lot of it, and then there are some things that I'm very questionable of, like how are we really evaluating Shadowburn these days?
Okay.
I think Mayhem looked better at the beginning of season 1 than this team looks for season 2.
Okay, guys, I have to break it to you. You're old enough now. There's no Santa Claus, and there is no Shadowburn is a world-class Genji. Yeah, both of these statements are wrong. Shadowburn should not start over Nico. I'll give you that. So that is.
I don't even think he'll start over Danya.
Do you think he starts on Pharah?
Gimme Nico Pharah, honestly, because then you could swap Diva, you could swap Genji. Like, I don't know what Shadowburn does here. Like, he is very hard and fast. Like, Genji is the only thing that you maybe could argue.
Shadowburn is somebody I want on my player coaching staff, by the way. I think he'd be great.
I don't.
Because he can dance?
I will say I'll say that I don't know that I don't even know if I want him as a coach, because I don't know that he talks very often. Like, I don't know. I think he could be just one of those, like, very quiet, instinctual players. Like, you see that in his blades. You see that in how he positions. Like, he's a quiet, dominant force in teams, where if you don't play around him, he looks completely like, this is a red team with a blue player. Like, completely stand out in a not a great way, kind of just off doing his thing. And if the team isn't there to support him, I can't say good things.
I don't know. I think from what I've heard from him, and again, man, a few words in a lot of ways, a few smiles and a few other things, but from what I've heard from him, he's incredibly intelligent. He thinks about the game very differently. He might not always, speak it. He's not like doing podcasts or, being outspoken about it on his streams or whatever. But the ability for somebody like that, who was at one point at the top of the game, he was at the top of the game. There's no one who can, argue that he wasn't.
Yeah.
Was at the top of the game, knows what that's been like, has gone through quite a few highs and lows. Sure. I don't think he's going to see another high again. I want him to. Dude, I'll be the first one to buy that Shadowburn jersey if he comes back in season 2. And, we're back to that. I just don't think that is. But, man, imagine that experience that you can instill into younger players.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would be great at doing that. But again,
I think you would be a fantastic two-way player. I think Shadowburn is a sick two-way player for a Paris expansion or like an academy team. I think you could see there always is a possibility. Like, I won't kind of count anybody out until they like physically retire. That you don't see him kind of come back to the MLG Vegas 2016 and he just like, no, I'm gonna run Genji into your triple tank soldier or triple tank McCree and just like, this is what I think is the best and my team's behind me and we're actually gonna prove you wrong. Like, this is what we're actually running. Because if you remember back on FaZe, that's what they did. MLG Vegas, go back and look at. There was the only team that were running triple tank Genji. And that takes some like, we can talk about there's a fine line between like bravery and stupidity, but he was confident enough in his mechanical ability and his team was confident enough in his mechanical ability. His coaching staff was confident enough in his mechanical ability that he was able to pull that off. He did it. No, they didn't win, but, had a sick performance, right? Showed a lot of people, I'm here, look at me. Like, I am a standout player. He could return there. I just don't think he is, I don't think he'll start, to be honest with you. I'd be surprised if he did. I think two-way would be fantastic for him. You keep him on roster, you keep him under. If somebody else wants to come in and pick him up season 3, fantastic. There you go. Until then, use that same intelligence, use that same experience, bring up those younger players. Build that foothold in Europe that, I think they want to do and use him as a catalyst.
I think they do soon. Nico, Hip, Shadowburn, Cruz. I don't know who the 6 would be.
It depends. I think I think if we're gonna play tanks, I'm not. I like Danya
I think
Ben
you'd
best.
agree. I'm not sure. This is also such a thing that concerns me about this team, dude. Like, one thing that I will say is, I'm not sure. There might be an issue with the lack of aged authority figures in that team. And that might also develop into a problem in terms of chemistry inside the team.
I kind of see what you're saying, but then I look at the coaching staff, and I think you have to have respect for that coaching staff. And if you don't, then I don't know why they would keep those players or why they would draft those players. So while I agree that like in game, you don't have someone that you can like rally behind, even though I do think Cruz can be that person in the long run. I do have to agree that, in game, there could be questions there, but out of game, like I think every player in Europe respects this coaching staff. Like,
yeah.
I think it'd be hard to find someone that like looks at them and goes, nah, I think they know more.
I should say one thing. I did make my starting roster. I did make it before they added Gray, so
that's fair.
That might change a little bit.
Yeah,
but
I think Gray adds redundancy, but
I think all their players add redundancy. That's why I don't like this roster. It's just
that's the exact reason why I like it, because like you have so much, like at least on paper you have so much consistency that you shouldn't be caught off guard by it. So I think that like they're not
consistently bad guys. Sorry, I'm just kidding. I'm just salty about it. I've been salty about this team since the beginning. I hate their little flourishy little logo with their big bold letters for it. I'm like, why? Why do any of that? Anyways, we got to get out of here. We got to get done. We got to be done here. We're at time. We made it through 5. We'll do 5 more probably next week. Yeah. We're gonna let's do Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes, because you have meetings.
Tuesday, 12 p.m. Pacific time. It's going to be the new time from now on, probably, maybe. We'll see.
All right.
But thank you guys for hanging out for another episode. Chat, you guys have been great. Very insightful. We have the best chat.
We have talkers.
They actually try to think. They actually try to think about the things they say. So appreciate you, chat. We are going to get out of here, though. You can find the show everywhere. Everywhere, literally everywhere. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find it everywhere. So go find it. Go get it. Go find it. Put it on your RSS feed, whatever. Your podcast app of choice. All that good stuff. Follow Joe at Volamel, Yiska at Yiska Out, myself at KickedTripod. Follow the show at OWL Daily Show. Joe, anything going on coming up?
Other than fighting whatever I've got, what kind of virus I have, catch Chinese contenders this weekend. Hopefully I will make it. Last weekend I had to cancel my spot because I was running a fever and felt like garbage. But we should be back week 5. Should be pretty hype. Got some bangers going on. Team GC, T1W. Gonna be that's a finality of a Lord bet that I have going, so we'll have to see what happens there. Content should be coming out shortly, or working on that. Got some stuff in the works, and yeah, just the usual. Hopefully just back on the grind.
Awesome. Yiska, what about you, man? Anything coming up?
Well, there's we're starting up Overture again. I'm probably going to talk about contenders and what is it good for, and yeah, that's as far as I've planned.
Great. Awesome. As for me, nothing
coming
out. Nothing
other
really
than moving.
Just moving for the 6th time. Yeah, next weekend
animal.
I'm going to be moving again to hopefully the final studio resting place for at least the next year. So I may be in a new place. I'm going to have that fiber internet life. That's going to be pretty dope.
I'm so jealous, dude. Like you were talking about that. I'm like,
pretty excited about that. I'm also streaming quite a bit at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. I usually start around 3 p.m. Pacific time and go until like 6:30. So, like 3-4 hour streams. But that's been a lot of fun. So I'd love it if you'd stop by. If you're already in chat, thank you for stopping by. Thank you to all the new followers for the channel and, all the new donators and subs and all that good stuff. We really appreciate you guys for doing that. Best way to support the show right now. Anyways, so thank you for doing that. We're going to get out of here. We'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of Tactical Crouch.